Welcome to Debt to Cinema. I'm Steven Maltmanex.
And I'm Brian Gillis. Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, sadly, we put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
Hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the others' opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
On we go into the wide blue yonder, riding
A long time ago, I saw what's probably the most obscure title in Steven Spielberg's filmography, and that's Always, which I don't know if it's good or if I like it, but for whatever reason, I remember it. There's just this whimsical touch that he adds that I can't forget it. You know, there's the way that there's this song by the Platters that's integrated into that film so well that it really gives its own identity, but it's a really just cheesy, corny, old-fashioned flick that's clearly more fitting of something in the 40s, because it's weird that that movie's the late 80s and yet takes place in modern times, and they have all this corny dialogue that would fit something more like a movie like this. But anyway, I saw that movie, and it wasn't till sometime later that I found out it was a remake of this movie that was called A Guy Named Joe, and then more and more pieces came together, and I heard that, you know, Spielberg had great affections for the film, obviously because he remade it. And then you just keep on seeing more and more that he goes as far as to say it's his favorite film, and it's something that, you know, not many people talk about. You get stuff on the AFI, and it's always a bunch of the popular things like Wizard of Oz or Gone with the Wind, and incidentally, this is directed by Victor Fleming, who was a director on both of those. This is written by Dalton Trumbo, who's that famous blacklisted screenwriter. You know, he did Spartacus, Roman Holiday, Papillon. This has Spencer Tracy, so this seems like this movie was a hidden gem, and for the longest time, I could not find it anywhere. At that point in time, this is probably like 4 years ago, it had only been out on VHS at that point, and there was no DVD until I think a few years ago, and then eventually there was a copy that was up there for streaming. But the catch is, I didn't have any way to rent the DVD, and if I wanted to stream it, I had to pay the full price of $20, and I was just not up to doing a blind buy for something like that. I just wasn't confident. So, you know, I bided my time, and I always had this movie on the back of my mind where if I could find it, I would see it. And eventually, now I live in Austin, I got 2 video stores in the vicinity of me, and then it clicked again, and I felt I should look for this title and seek it out. Sure enough, they had it, and then I had it on the back of my mind of like, you know what, I might want to do it for this show. That might be a good excuse. So I was thinking in November, maybe way back before then, I was going to do it, but then I kept putting it off, and I was going to do it in January, but then I changed it for Samurai Cop right when I had seen it. So here we are. Finally, I got this out of the way. And I may have hyped it up way a bit too much for myself, to be honest.
No, I really liked it. I mean,
I did too.
I'm happy that it landed the time that it did, because if you had selected this when you first mentioned it back in November or whatever, I probably would have fucking hated you, because I'm not nearly as emotional about anything in my life as I was back then, and I definitely would have cried. That there's a guarantee. Like if I had seen this when I picked Terms of Endearment, oh yeah, for sure. Just too on the nose. It's also kind of funny. It's good that you also didn't pick it back then too, because we had recently seen Stairway to Heaven or whatever the
that was a year
is.
ago, and that's that was another thing that got me excited about this. And I feel like, well, they're not exactly comparable, but at the same time they are. But Stairway to Heaven is just such a great, just visionary film, and this. It's a war propaganda film that came out in 1943 while we were fighting the war, which is not a knock against it, but it's definitely apparent, and just as a slice of history, that's really, really cool. Whereas Stairway to Heaven it's from these visionary filmmakers who were able to make those propaganda films, but also make movies that were able to stand the test of time, like Life and Death of Colonel Blimp and 49th Parallel. Those came out during the war, but even so, those movies still really, really hold up, I think.
Yeah, but this holds up a lot better than Stairway to Heaven.
I disagree with that.
Yes. my main criticism of Stairway to Heaven was that you're supposed to give a fuck about this dude and the girl that he cares about, and yet there's no romance that's ever instigated before the movie begins. And this one, you get a full act of the movie where Spencer Tracy and Irene Dunn actually, you know who they are. You can care for the romance. They're not just characters in love, but you can feel their love. It's real. And then one of them dies, and then you get everything that follows after. Whereas Stairway to Heaven's just like, they met, they're in love, he's dead, and now what? It's just bullshit.
It's a far more thoughtful film than an emotional one, I think, and just has so many cool ideas in it and so many cool visuals. It's very, very creative and very playful. But yeah, this one is definitely
This is a real movie.
It's more about pulling your heartstrings, although the relationship here, I want to say it kind of landed for me, but also it didn't.
No, I loved it. I loved it a lot.
I love the banter,
It's
the
the
back
banter.
and forth between them. Yeah, like there's a lot of really fun stuff, but at the same time, Spencer Tracy is just kind of a dick. Like
So?
it's
He's
hard
like
to
the
it's
big
hard to feel
hotshot
much for
pilot.
him.
Of course he's a dick. When you're that
Yeah.
kind of person, like, wait, you
But
expect him
it's
to
just
be nice?
he
Like,
doesn't
no.
have his human moments so much. Even when he's dead, he's still just kind of a piece of shit. And it's like I get what his arc is, but it's like I'm half and half on it. I'm sort of two minds where just this character is very unsympathetic at some points, and also it's just the way that they kind of build him up where everybody has his back on everything. Like it's a bit corny how when he's first being sold as a character before he's even on screen. You have those kids just going, I bet that's Pete Sandage. I bet you he's the best flyer around. Like going so far as like, when he lands the plane and then his buddy comes in and covers the jacket of that wing just so that he won't get in trouble. Like everybody has this guy's back, which obviously contributes to why he is such a narcissistic douche throughout the whole thing.
I didn't really care. I didn't care at all for the characters. I was just watching it for the romance, and it sold me really well. I mean, I love His Girl Friday. I actually almost bought
The
the
Criterion one?
copy. However, I was like, why the fuck would I pay $20 for something that is part of the public domain? I can watch for free
Because
legally.
you can get a better transfer on it.
I don't
That's
care.
That would be why.
I can
But
watch
no,
it
like I mean,
legally
yeah,
for free.
there is banter, like screwball level banter.
Oh, yeah.
Just within that
Those
league,
first
It's like,
20
yeah,
minutes.
right when they're within that bar. Just like I love those lines, but like just what is it like? It goes fast enough that you can kind of miss it. Like, but there's just little back and forth lines where he's just like, "I'm not drilling. What am I drilling? What the hell are you talking about?" Or just stupid stuff like, "Well, what you say doesn't make any sense." It's not. I don't know if it's necessarily as good as His Girl Friday, but it's definitely
close.
within that league, and it's very
Yeah.
funny. And there's a lot of stuff that I do remember. I think my favorite one's actually when he says something like, there was this poem I read in school. It goes, "Men must work and women must weep." I remember the women must weep part. And I was laughing in stitches when I heard that.
I was a fan of, as soon as he gave her the dress, they're fighting, and then he hands her the dress, and he's just like,
Yeah.
oh my god. Well, he throws it, actually, and she
Yeah,
picks
it's
it
just
up.
like,
and,
it's just like trash. All right, there you go.
Puts
Yeah.
it on. But then when she comes back down and they're dancing, and she looks over his shoulder and like winks at some guy or something, and you don't see him. Like just the framing of that scene is awesome. It's a single take and they're dancing, and yet you have the stuff in the foreground that's out of focus, like a chandelier, not a chandelier, but like a candelabra or like just like a bookshelf or some random shit, and they're kind of dancing between them. It's just something that you don't really see on camera often. And they're having that conversation, like, did you smile at him? And she's like, did I? I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you definitely did. He's like, was that for me? She's like, I'm not sure. Was it? And then you
Same
have this
time,
moment.
The one guy has not done that.
Yeah, well, even better yet, though, she goes, oh, I think I might have, but, like, are you jealous? And
Yeah.
it goes back and forth for such an extent that it's really fun. Like, it kind of, I was telling you last night, I was like, yeah, I fell asleep in the movie. I fell asleep, like, right then. And I knew that I wasn't able to watch another hour of something and record, 3 hours of conversation.
Yeah, when you're exhausted and it's daylight savings time where you lose an hour, this movie is not friendly for just that mindset.
It was a lot of different things, but from what I saw, those first 25 minutes or so, I knew that I was going to like it, and sure enough, I did, which is weird because I don't really like war movies, and I definitely am not truly a fan of the afterlife stuff, even though I have seen some particularly good stuff. I haven't seen
Matter of Life
Always.
and Death.
I wouldn't count that one.
I love that
I would
movie.
say more like Heart and Souls with Robert Downey Jr. or Heaven Can Wait.
You should check out Always because it's like it is
no, I
definitely.
will.
It's way cornier, but I don't know, just something like it's like weird because I like Spencer Tracy in this more than I like Richard Dreyfuss in that one. But here it's flipped flopped. Like I think Irene Dunn's okay, but Holly Hunter, man, like she really really makes an impression in that movie.
No, I really liked Irene Dunn. It was maybe not her name, Deandra or whatever the hell it is. It's pretty
Dorinda,
weird.
it's the same name.
It's
It's a
weird
straight up
name.
remake, so everyone's got the same character. The guy that plays Al in all, it's John Goodman in that
Yeah.
one, and he steals the show. Like they do so many things that are. There's a cool gag with helium air balloons, like just so many things. I think I just like that movie better though too, just because really there's like so many like practical scenes where they're basically shooting these real forest fires, and they got planes flying up in the air, and it's Spielberg, so all that stuff's exciting, and you just don't see that often. But it's definitely a movie that's worth checking out. But this one has to come first, I think, just by default. So I'm glad that you at least came that way.
I only haven't seen 6 Spielberg movies. Always, The Color Purple, BFG, War Horse, the 1941, and Sugarland Express.
That's probably within good reason. Like BFG and War Horse, they're definitely within the same league as Always, I would say, where it's like they're movies where they have that charm that I like, but I'm not sure I would necessarily say that they're good, although I think Always is probably the best one of those three.
Always,
if not just for the Platter song, which if you don't fall for that when you hear it, then I don't know what the hell is the matter with you, because it's just way too damn charming to not fall for.
I'll watch all of his films eventually. I'm just not necessarily looking forward to it, especially in terms of War Horse. Like I think that's the film in his filmography that I haven't seen. Now, Color Purple is like equally just not interested. Like, no thanks.
Yeah, it's different. I don't know. Color. I remember it being really good, but I was not like as struck with that as I was with some like Empire of the Sun.
The idea of Oprah at the peak of her stardom being in a Spielberg movie that she produced, and she put the book in as part of her book club. I'm like, when it comes to advertisements, like that's pretty much product placement, like 100%. Like that, I'm just against that. And the fact that it's
Spielberg at the time trying to be taken more seriously.
Spielberg making a black film too.
But he did make a good one. Like to be fair,
I'm sure it's good, but he also made Amistad. So Amistad is
okay.
I know is actually good. So
Amistad is very 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 manipulative.
So
like in a
it's laughable
way where it's like.
Yeah. Everyone's good. That's great performances all around, man. That's a fantastic
what's messed
film.
up about that movie is that what they never tell you is that when the guy was freed, he ended up trading slaves. So
fuck it. That's not part of the movie.
So it's just kind of fucked up. I just gotta say.
Gotta make a living, man.
But yeah, no, this movie. I guess. What we talked about Tracy.
Well, actually, no, we didn't, because this is the first leading role I've ever seen him in. I've seen him only in 2 other things, and they're ensembles, How the West Was Won and It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. I'd never seen him before. I haven't seen Guess Who's Coming to Dinner or The Father of the Bride. I've seen the remakes for both of those. I'd never seen him before.
Oh, man, really?
And it made me want to check out some of his stuff.
Bad Day at Black Rock. You got to check that out. Like,
anything, to be
honest.
That
has to be on this show at some point, because that movie is, it's perfect for you because it's the 90-minute runtime, and it's a pretty intense movie.
Van Johnson, the guy who replaces Spencer Tracy in this film, down to a T, I'd seen him in things. Okay?
But what did you think of him here, though? Because, like,
I mean, he has great screen presence. He has, great hair and a smile. Like, he has charisma. You don't care at him at all.
He's a surrogate for Pete, so that's where the romance angle is kind of weird for me.
It's a really weird thing.
Yeah, it's like, I love the idea of this movie, but then at the same time, I can't be invested so much. Like, I feel like there should be more of his own identity and seeing why that relationship works with Dorinda. It's not, but I feel like if that was there, it would at least make Dorinda's character more it would help her in quite a few ways, and it would help me give a crap about this stuff. But it's more about Spencer Tracy moving on.
It's a one-man show. It's only about one person. That's the reason why Spencer Tracy is almost in every single shot. The only shots that he isn't in are the ones that, either he's already dead or it's the Dorinda, like, side story stuff where she's grieving over him. So even though he's not in the frame, it's still 100% about his character. But I don't know. I love the idea, even if you're not looking at it as for, like, looking at it as a war film or the afterlife. You're just looking at this as kind of like a breakup movie. It does that really well. The fact that people are liable to fall for people that remind them of the people that they just moved on from or are moving on from. Like the idea of the rebound, even this era, it's nailed really well. Like not forgetting Sarah Marshall territory because it can't be this, during the production code, and it's a wartime film, and it's a black and white movie, and a whole bunch of other things
that surpass that.
Yeah, like it's between the screenwriting in terms of dialogue and also just the way that the story comes around and how smart it is. I mean, like I said, I'm not exactly a fan of the like Guardian Angel type film, but it does it really well.
I love it here. Just that line, which is probably the most famous line, which is when he's in heaven, he's just like, either I'm dead or I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you're not crazy. Like. Just I love those moments where he's reacting, even when he goes to see the chief officer in heaven. He's
Lionel
like, "Oh yes,
Barrymore.
we've been expecting you," and he's just like, "Oh well, like he realizes how that's a bad thing afterwards." But I mean, yeah, just the stuff like whoever, I don't know his name, but whatever the guy's name is, that's basically mentoring Pete to help out humans. Yeah, just like
he doesn't get enough credit. He's like barely in this. He should have more scenes.
Yeah, he's just kind of standing there, and he's kind of just putting on a smile like the whole time. But yeah, that guy really makes an impression. Always has a response for everything that Pete says that he doesn't agree with, and he really just steals like all the little moments there.
Yeah, I'll probably make Heaven Can Wait a selection in the near future, just because I feel like at this point now we're just gonna do every Warren Beatty film on the show. But that's kind of a similar story. I think it was from the 40s was the original, and then once he got clout and became a director, he made Heaven Can Wait, and it was just updating an old film into the modern era, except that's like the early 70s instead of the late 80s in the case with Always. It was the same exact story, except also Heaven Can Wait was remade again and became Head of State, that Chris Rock movie where he's dead but then he enters the body of the politician.
He's running. Oh no, that's
not
Head of
State.
State's the one where he's running for president. Down to Earth.
Down to Earth.
I think.
Yeah, there you go. Down to Earth is a remake of Heaven Can Wait, which is a remake of Heaven Can Wait. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about this film. I really. I didn't love it 100%, but I really did care for it, and I love these characters and just the ideas at play, like the themes that are being used, that are being utilized, the fact that, this was made for one purpose only, to kind of get everyone in the States to support the troops when they're at war still, and it's more than that.
Especially near the tail end where, there's been I think this is right around the D-Day invasion, or it already happened.
It probably already happened. This is Pacific Theater already.
Yeah, like this is where we know a bunch of people are getting cut down, and it's really a movie that has one responsibility, which is to basically give meaning in death for people that have.
It's more so getting people to let go of grieving and move on.
It's also with
their lives.
The Colonel, where it's just like, hey, they're not really gone. They're still helping you out in some way. Like, hey, even if you die in the army, even in the afterlife, you still have a responsibility to help out in some form. Which, I don't know. It seems almost laughable, but it's like I get it. And I don't dislike the movie, but it's like I really am weirdly of two minds of it, where I'm really taken in by the charm, and yet there's just some things that seem a little off, and like it's just stuff like that, and it's the same deal with Always, except here the propaganda, because I'm so aware of it, I'm watching it, I'm just kind of like, well, I see your point, but it doesn't necessarily help for storytelling. But then there's also really good lines that I like, where especially from Spencer Tracy, where like near the end when he's saying, even if you have all that love, it's like, you shouldn't grieve. You should just pass it on to the next person. That's your responsibility to do that. Like it's a weird mix of things where I'm just kind of like, and then stuff where I'm like, yeah, I really like that, actually. That's really cool.
Yeah, I really liked everything except the end. I thought, like it was pretty obvious. Like throughout the film, you got the "I don't want you through the air. You should get a desk job. You get a desk job, I'll marry you" type thing. It's like okay. And then you finally get this other guy, this remake of him, down to like twirling his eyebrows to the things he says.
He's
like
just passing himself on. To the next person.
100%. Yeah, he's jealous. Hey, why don't you become like a stunt flyer so you can be like me? Oh, you didn't get in trouble. Oh my god. But then when it leads,
sorry. So one thing about this guy that I find way too funny. Why does he have to have $4 million? Like
three.
No, it's 4. It's 4, isn't it?
3.
$4 million bucks.
Whatever.
I thought that's what I heard.
It's a couple
Either way,
million.
the guy's a millionaire, and it's one of those things where I don't know if you remember in Wysocki's class, but like we had to write this negative reading of a film, like, and how in some way it reinforces for old Hollywood, it reinforces a white patriarchal male society, and
Yeah.
I just was thinking that throughout this, where it's like, oh, so Dorinda's gonna end up with the millionaire, just because. And how does he get her, by the way, with that thing of like, oh, you look
my
a lot
sister.
like my sister, which that works. Okay, I mean, even in 1943, I guess.
Yeah, Irene
I
Dunn
mean, geez,
or
if that
Dune.
works, let me take a time machine. I'd love to try that out because that's
it didn't.
fucking weird.
It didn't actually work on her. It worked on her because in that moment, Spencer Tracy was whispering her ear. Remember the first time I saw you, and I used that line, and it's inferred that Spencer Tracy, who gifted that line to Van Johnson, used that same line on Irene in the past, and that's why she got her panties in a twist.
To be fair, though, it did work on that one girl in the bar, but then also it didn't work on the Asian waitress that came in.
San Francisco, yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. We're all brothers and sisters here.
He was like, "It's the first time that hasn't worked in 3 months."
They even gave him shit on the plane when he's like, well, I'll tell you where you're going. No one's going to remind you of your sister. And they just laugh at him for it. So I don't know. Maybe they recognize how stupid it was. But I was shocked to see that worked in that moment.
It would work.
It was weird.
I mean, especially the first time it works in this film, where you have like a almost Top Gun element. They're like in the officer bar, basically just hanging out, getting drinks, and all of these girls in the bar are there for one reason only. It's because they want to fuck a pilot or a pilot in training.
Well, and it's World War II. Almost every American guy was in the war.
Yeah. And you have this girl who's desperate, like asking that sick guy, hey, you want to go to the Majestic? I got some tickets. Hey, you want something to eat? Hey, can I dance with you? Hey. And then you finally, you get this loser dude in the corner reading a book that now has a guardian angel who knows all the right things and overnight becomes a success story. But that's not what I have a problem with. All that stuff is fun. It moves the story along. There's never any down moments here where you're not having some kind of pleasure. Like, it's a very enjoyable film.
Well, there's weird stuff for me, though, where I feel like it's a nitpick with him still, where I don't get the point of the monologue with the guy in his town with the foot that kept growing. And
no, it was just a stupid story. It didn't
even
matter.
then he's just like, well, I told you it was a story. I didn't tell you it was a good one. Yeah,
that's just where he's starting to get cocky, and they're trying to distance Van Johnson's character from Spencer Tracy. Like, he's becoming his own version of Spencer Tracy. Like, it's no longer Pete's like apprentice. Like, he's now a master, and he has his own spin. And that's why even Spencer Tracy himself is like, wait, what happened? What happened to the foot? Tell him what happened to the foot. What's going on? Like, he gets so invested, just like we are in the audience and the women in the bar. Like, everyone is interested at that point. Like, he's becoming the man that Spencer Tracy should have been, except he was too much of an asshole. But anyway, the problem I have with this film, and I was reading about it, and apparently a lot of people did, is the ending. When Deidre, or whatever you want to call her, Dorinda, jumps in that plane, flies off, does the perfect mission, no problems, even though she's never been in a fighter plane. She's only like flown little fucking puddle jumpers,
mail service jets.
Yeah, and lands perfectly, and there isn't you're getting kicked out of the fucking military right now. You can't take our plane and do the mission. Like, there should have been some repercussion. I love a happy ending, but you don't even get a happy ending here. She just lands, and he greets her. The end. No.
You're not going to fire the fiance of the best fighter pilot that you have in that base? No, because this is old Hollywood.
You want to know what the real ending was supposed to be?
I know what the real ending would be.
If she died in that mission, if her plane went down and she bonsai'd, if she fucking kamikaze the Japanese right there, that would have been an awesome ending. You get her in heaven with Spencer Tracy looking down on Van Johnson going, he'll find someone else because now I have you. That's
fucked up.
No, that's a real happy ending. That she actually gets to end up with the man that she's actually in love with. She came to her senses.
It has nothing to do with Spencer Tracy's arc in that movie, but
it still would. They would be on the ground together. They could fly together.
That it's an insane ending where it's just like, oh, I'm gonna take this jet and do the raid myself because I don't want my fiance to do it, who at that point I left and didn't want to marry.
Yeah, it's more,
but I want to protect him from getting killed. Like,
it was more so
taking out a Japanese weapons deposit on your own.
Yeah. It was crazy regardless, and this guy who's only been flying for a year wasn't going to do it. Like, the reason, the motivation I saw for her was, oh shit, I just broke this guy's heart.
I
He
don't
thought he
want
was
him to
going to
die.
marry
Yeah.
him, but now he's going to be so distracted. I just broke up with him within like minutes of him finding about his mission and minutes before he's going. I don't want to have guilt on my conscience that he died during his mission because of me, you know? Like, she doesn't love this guy.
That's the thing. You can never feel it because there's no moment where you really get to see chemistry work between them
Well,
two. It's just Pete using him
yeah,
as a vessel, and
he's
she's
never a
seeing
real
things
character.
that she likes.
The movie's not about him at all. He's
I wish it was a little bit, because then it would be a little bit more about her at the same time, and you would get a little bit more about how Pete's affecting her and how she's moving on through it. You would get a better sense of that, but instead it's just purely Pete and him watching things on the outside.
like, apparently Van Johnson got in a car accident a couple of months before production was going to begin, so he was in a hospital for like 3 months or something, and they were going to recast him, but then Spencer Tracy and Irene and
Yeah,
probably
they said,
even
"No,
Fleming
no, we
were
wanna
like,
wait
no,
for
yeah,
him."
we'll shoot around him. So maybe part of that, the reshoots and all of that production delay, caused his character to get trimmed down. I don't know. No one actually
Evidently,
knows,
you can
but
see a scar in some scenes out of order, but I didn't notice that.
yeah, I wasn't.
I wasn't looking for it.
And I mean, the film grain is whatever with the transfer. Like, no, like this is my favorite movie of all time. But I really like the characters. I like the world that they're living in. I love that it's still pretty cheerful, regardless of it being in the middle of a war. There's not really any stakes here. You never feel danger, but that's not what it's about. It's strictly a love story, and that's all it is. And it's a pretty damn good one at that, for given the era. I mean, you can't show anyone in a bedroom together because they're not married and shit like that. Like, they're drinking, but not really. It's just a snapshot of the past. Like, this is,
Yeah.
true love that's eternal, that lasts always. That it doesn't matter if you're dead, they're still gonna pine for you. They know that it's only about you. Like, Irene has a couple of really great lines, but especially Al. Al has that line about what is it? The quick sickness and the slow sickness. Like,
Yeah, and what you had, Brian, was the quick one.
no,
You don't have the slow one that aches in your bones for the rest of your life.
it felt no.
That's what they have.
I mean, I don't feel the way I did then now, but I still feel a certain way now.
Just trying to help you out, bud.
I don't need help. Like, I'm good now. But it's even still, like, like I said, if I saw this a couple months ago, it would have fucking hurt me a lot. Like, I can only imagine someone like Nancy Housewife seeing this in the theater after her man Joe died in the service. Like, oh, it would have devastated them. And that's kind of what it's for. It's not quite a Lifetime movie. It's not quite melodrama, because it's there's not any weeping moments necessarily. Like, it's a feel good movie. It's a good time. However, at the same time, like, it does have some just great messages about moving on from all things in life, especially death
In the war.
Yeah, in the war, but also
Which is something a lot of people needed.
about death and the death of romance. And for that, I'm gonna buy this one for $1 just because I really enjoyed it. Like, I generally speaking, I don't watch films like pre like 1981 or so. But even still, this one it seemed contemporary for me. Like, it was great. It was screwbally enough. It was fun enough. Like, there was enough of an adventure there that I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone that wouldn't enjoy this film. Like, it doesn't take itself seriously, even when it is serious, and because of that, it's really enjoyable. I can understand why someone like Spielberg or even Richard Dreyfuss would consider this one of their favorite films, and it makes sense that them, given their talent level, would be able to get Hollywood to make a remake like it.
Well, apparently on the set of Jaws, they talked about this movie a lot, and
Yeah.
they found that they had love for it. So then,
No,
yeah,
y- y-
after a certain amount of time, they both just felt like they had to make it.
Even better than that, next time I watch Poltergeist, I'll have to look for it. They put snippets of this film.
That's what it
on the
was.
TVs.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking that because I knew. I even tried Googling. It's like, what movie references it within a movie? Because it was bugging me forever. Where it's like, I know I've seen that line. Was it in The Departed or something? Was it a Scorsese movie? I had no idea what it was. Now I'll look for it, because I'm seeing Poltergeist on 70mm next month, so I'm gonna look for that.
Yeah, it's the film that Spielberg wrote and produced, so kind of makes sense. It's fitting.
Anyway, though, I do like the movie. I really do. It's just I'm sort of two minds for it. I really love this idea. That's what I really liked about Always, even though there were some things that seemed off because that movie is very old-fashioned, and just having lines that felt like they belonged in the 40s, like having Richard Dreyfuss saying, oh no, you're my girl, just in very specific ways, sounding like a 40s fighter pilot. It felt awkward, but that movie has a nice vibe. This movie has a nice vibe, and there's definitely charm to it. There's a lot of banter and ideas that I like, but then there's some just things in other characters and just charm lacking in other areas, and there's just stuff that's not really hitting with me, and it's still something that I would definitely watch this, probably be a lot more kinder and have my expectations a lot lower, just as like a nice time capsule of the 40s, just as a nice slice of entertainment. But it's frustrating because it's a movie I like, but I really want to love it more. Like it's so I can't quite buy it for $1, but I still really recommend seeing it, especially, if you have seen Always and you want to see what that comes from, or if you want to see something that Spielberg likes, like just, because he's a lot of people's favorite filmmaker for obvious reasons. It's like, why would you not want to watch movies that inspired some of your favorite filmmakers? Like, aside from that, though, it's generally a very nice, pleasant movie, and yeah, I liked it. Just it's a stupid criticism, but man, I really want to love it. I just can't.
Like, this is one of those perfect, it's a raining movies, or better
Yeah.
yet, for me, it's like, it's the spring just started and it's 10 a.m. I want to watch a movie in bed. Like, it just,
You worked hard one day, you turn on the TV,
Exactly.
you flip through TCM, and then you see it's on. Why not?
why not? Like, I'll watch a couple of minutes of that for sure, especially if it's the beginning. And it's like, I'm gonna steal this idea, or not idea, but name from Guillermo del Toro when he was talking about Zodiac the other day, and tweets that the whole internet's talking about for some reason. It's like, yeah, don't write a fucking article, just retweet them. But anyway, that's not the point. It's a one sock movie. You're getting dressed in the morning, you're flipping TV, a movie comes on, you put one sock on, and then you don't finish putting on the other sock, you just watch the rest of the film. And this is kind of one of those. I don't know if I would make it through the whole way again, but I would definitely stop whatever I'm doing for X number of minutes at given moments just to watch it, because it's just good filmmaking. I mean, it's like you said, this is Victor
Speaking of
Fleming.
which, just one thing we didn't even talk about, but like, I know it's not the same level of Wings, especially since we saw real planes going up in
actual
the air,
flying, yeah.
but they blend the line here so well, where sometimes it's obviously a miniature and sometimes it's obviously a plane, but then there's shots where they blend so well that you can't even tell. And just some of, like, the moment that Pete's plane crashes, like, I'm pretty sure that that's a miniature and they just blew it up to make the explosion convincing. But man, like, the look of it, it's so cool.
I just like the planes. I mean, not in the air, but these are models that I've never seen
They
before,
really
like
do
the
cool effects work
B-39.
with them, yeah.
Like, they look really cool. The fact that you have this plane that has like a bi-wing structure, and yet at the same time it also has like this glass cabinet with a gunner in it, and it's like, wow, that's a really cool looking plane. And then even just like the planes that they're flying in, they also have like the same kind of dome cock pilot. It's like, wow, that's a good. I mean, like, jumping from something like Top Gun, which is like the full-on fighter plane. Like, you have the great dialogue here where, Spencer Tracy's like, fucking Lionel Barrymore never flew a real plane. He doesn't even know what plane flying is. And it's like, can you imagine Tom Cruise saying that shit about the guys in this movie? Like, no, we're gonna do a flyby. Because if you, like, on paper, like, if you throw out the ghost idea, the angels being gone, this film is very much a blueprint for Top Gun. You have this cocksure pilot in the middle of a war who's very, very fucking good at what he does. He's so cocky about it that he does flybys, like, right over the ground, gets in trouble by his commanding officer. Like, this probably set the blueprint. I mean, Wings also, to an extent, even though there's, no dialogue there. Just, like, what a pilot film is. Like, not Flight, not Sully, but actual, like, wartime, like
I mean,
fighter
contemporary
pilot
examples, no, they definitely don't.
But,
in
like,
what you're saying,
but
yeah,
I'm saying, like,
I don't know. I just found it funny that you're bringing it
No,
up.
I'm saying,
It's
like, not
no, they're totally
not
the
those
same.
kind of pilots, but like actual pilots, like people that have their wings, not in the commercial sense of the word. Probably this is the one. I would think that this is the one that kind of set that groundwork. Because, like I said, look at fucking Top Gun 40 years later. I can almost imagine a part of cinema, like, what if Goose died and went to heaven and he came back and there's a shot of him in the cabin with Maverick, and he's telling him, just do it, you hear that music playing, that's me, buddy, that's
If
me.
Spielberg directed it, who knows?
Probably. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. You know, trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.